shit.
That's what I'm talking about.
Wait.
Okay, now, from the beginning.
Welcome to The Good Soil. Today on our show, I'm joined by Mike Foreshew, the Chief Information Officer at the Montague Group. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Yeah, now, Mike, Montague Group are a private family-owned company that comprises a complete fruit chain supply chain from orchards to packaging to storage to retail. It's the largest grower and producers of apples and stone fruit in Australia. Can you tell our listeners a little bit more about this business?
Sure. So like you said, it's been a family company. It started in 1948, so it's been going 71 years. Like you said, it's predominantly apples and stone fruit. We've been operating out of the same location in Narre-Warren, sort of southeast of Melbourne. For all of that time, we've still got the original orchards, and there's even some of the original trees here. So it's a fantastic family story in that regard. We still have the original founder, Bill Montague, who started the whole business back in, like I said, 1948. He still comes in from time to time, but really he leaves it to his children and grandchildren to run the business now. So we're now up to the third generation family running the business here in Melbourne. But we have operations across Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, obviously, and Tasmania.
Great. And now, Mike, you've had a pretty esteemed career thus far. Where did it all start for you?
Esteemed is a big word. Unplanned is probably more like it. But look, it was it's a very unconventional way, I guess. I finished university, the usual sort of thing, not really sure what I was going to do. Yeah. And I was picked up by Anderson Consulting. Back then, when it was Anderson Consulting, later became Accenture, and then progressed through consulting with various organisations, both vendor and other of the chartered firms. Then sort of about 16 years ago, I decided I wanted to be a bit of more of a customer, so I moved across to the customer side, and that's probably where I've had some of my greatest experiences in terms of opportunities and projects and stuff. You know, the retail contestability for electricity and gas in Victoria, various private equity engagements, buying and selling organisations and managing them through that process, through to the being in the government sector, being at the Country Fire Authority and being part of the team that unfortunately we are witnessing Black Saturday and then having to deliver things after that.
Yeah, right. And that Gov career continued on, I believe, in a couple of more roles at Mornington Peninsula Shire and the Fair Work Commission.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's sort of, like I said, some of these things are unplanned, and you follow it where the opportunities go, and that's what Mornington Peninsula was about. And look, after, as you'd appreciate, it was a very intensive period at CFA when I was there, and all of that sort of thing. So the Mornington Peninsula was a nice change of pace. Great place to work, lovely spot. It's very hard to go to a beach every day, and that sort of thing. And then obviously the Fair Work Commission and that sort of thing, doing some of the digital transformation there, starting that up, and whatever. But like I said, it was the call back to move it back into the private sector for a while, and Montague gave me that opportunity, and it's a good place to be.
Yeah, right. So I was reading one of your LinkedIn articles, and you caught my attention about digital transformation, and you mentioned, what do you actually mean by taking on a sugar hit approach versus a longer term sweet spot or sweet success approach?
So you're one of the three people that read it. Thanks. Look, it's a combination of a bunch of experiences and everything that I have seen and done. Digital transformation, whatever you want to call it, means many things to many different people. In some organisations, it could be nothing more than updating a website. In larger organisations, it's meant to take on a significant transformation of the whole organisation, and quite holistic. So it's many and varied is what it means to people. At the end of the day, it's personal to each organisation. There's no one definition or one prescription that says what it should be. And the same for the results. You can't just say, look, you'll do this and this is everything that you'll get. And as a recipe, it just doesn't work like that. It's personal, it's specific, it's individualized. And the thing, so having done various, in inverted commas, digital transformations and the whole lot, one of the things that I noticed, particularly when I was consulting and doing some other work in particularly with our supply chain here at Montague, is that a lot of people will spend money on a transformation, whether it's technology. Invariably, there's technology involved, but they'll spend a lot of money on that, and they will get the sugar hit, and that is they'll get that short-term benefit, that short-term hit, but it's not sustainable. It's not sustained, and very quickly competitors catch up, or they fall into old practices or anything like that. So the ones that have been very successful that I've seen take a longer term approach, and that is they incrementally build. So yeah, they might do the digital transformation, but they're realistic about what they're going to get, and more importantly, they build it in such a way that it becomes sustainable. One of my personal sort of mantras is that it's digital transformation is a task, not an event. And you continue. And that's what I say. You can get that sugar hit. It's a bit like you're playing sport. You come in, it's 3/4 time, it's freezing cold, playing football, and you're a bit low in energy. So you have the oranges or the snakes or the lollies or whatever it is. You get that sugar hit, you go out, but it's only going to last you 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Whereas if you've built the season up, you've done your pre-season, you've done your training, you can continue on. And that's really what I'm trying to point out there, is that those organisations that are getting a continuing benefit from it really look at it as that sweet success, as opposed to just the sugar hit.
Yeah. And how do you manage the pressure from the business? Is it, telling them to take a bit of a longer term view and be patient versus, they wanting to get some runs on the boards? Do you look for the low hanging fruit, so to speak? Nice one for the Montague Group.
Yeah, nice pun there. I haven't heard that before. But look, it's a combination of that. You've got to set the right expectation, and that's being honest about where the organisation is beginning its journey from, where it's beginning its transformation from. The second part of that is, what do they want to achieve? One of my favourite sort of approaches is, I keep telling everybody, talk to me like I'm an 8-year-old. Draw me a picture. Here's some crayons. Go nuts. Tell me what it looks like. What does success look like to you? And when I say to you, I mean to the business. Is it more, in the case of Montague, is it a greater pack out per bin picked? Is it an improvement in quality? Is it a reduction in production? However it looks, tell me what a picture of success looks like. The moment you're then able to understand what their view of success is, you can couch your approach and measure that in a way that's familiar to them. So if they want to increase the pack out of fruit bins from 90% to 95% as the goal, well, then that's the way you start recording it and reporting it. And this is where you then, the experience I've then has, okay, well, what are the steps that we then need to take to get to that? And that's where you can break it down into smaller chunks. And that's probably where I've seen a lot of the success is you build upon. You get some of the quick wins, the low-hanging fruit, as it were. You build on that, but then there's build confidence, and so that each time you go back for a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more, and then before they know it, it's the organisation's well on this journey. The other thing that I've also found is, by asking for relatively small, like these early successes, the focus and the pressure isn't as great on them. So if you were to walk up and say to the board, I need, $50 million to do this transformation, that's going to garner a lot of attention. Whereas if you only say, well, look, I only need $50,000 and these are the results I'm going to get at it, it's going to be a lot easier to get that, and the expectation is going to be quite correctly set. So when you then do that 50,000, then you do the next one, then the next one, then the next one. And then before you know it, you're done. The final thing I'll add to that is that you get the benefits sooner by doing the smaller projects. I mean, a number of projects that I've seen, talk to my peers, they're 2-3 years deep in these things and they still haven't seen it. And, people are starting to, support is starting to drift a bit and wane and the whole lot.
Yeah.
If you're able to do something and turn it around relatively quickly, it builds support, it builds the enthusiasm, and effectively it builds that expectation that this is going to continue. And that's where you then get into this continuous improvement, the sweet success that I talk about.
Yep, love it. That's great, and that building obviously it builds momentum and buy-in, which is great tips. Thanks for that. And moving on to from the business side to the technology side, at Montague Group, you've moved to Microsoft's Azure cloud platform about a year ago or so, and using SharePoint and what you call Montague Plus Portal. What's the story behind this, and are you seeing any benefits yet?
Sure, and this is one of these, a really good one in terms of a business imperative that we've been able to turn into an advantage. Yeah. Basically, Montague was facing the need to upgrade all of our hardware. They were several-year-old Unix servers that had been around for a long time. Beautiful support, storage, capacity, reliable. Yeah. They were as reliable as a wood-burning stove. They were fantastic. But they were starting to get a little bit dated. And it came to the point where the vendor said, look, we can't support these anymore. And I basically, my support model would be to buy things on Gumtree, which is not really a good business model. So we had a look around and said, okay, well, how can we do this? And basically it came out that rather than spending the capital money on implementing new hardware and then having all of the issues around that, and when I say issues, it's the backup, it's the maintenance, the support, the whole lot. Yep. For the same price as what my maintenance per annum would cost, I was able to move everything to Azure and then all of the benefits that accrue with that. Yeah. Now, that's really good, particularly for an orchard or for an agricultural company, because that then means they see assets in the physical sense. Yeah. So that means that they had, more money to go and spend on trees and orchards and packing equipment and tractors and things like that. Yep. So that's what came out of that. But as a result of moving to Azure to Office 365, we get access to the whole SharePoint suite. Yep. And one of the things that we've then done is, well, how can we use that? It's a great tool there. This is sometimes, vendors present these products and their answers looking for problems. Yep. And we had a look at SharePoint and we came up with the approach that we would put this portal together. Now, what it effectively is depending upon your relationship with Montague, whether you're a customer, whether you're a supplier, whether you're a grower, whether you're whatever is your relationship, you will come in through Montague Plus, and we will present to you the information. Now, at the moment, it's fairly basic. And that is for growers, when are they going to get paid for their apples, or all of these sorts of things. Yep. But going forward, we've got plans to, with project for next year, is to implement BI for them so they can start doing some analysis. So basically, it allows the customer or the supplier, whatever it is, to have access to Montague's systems and be able to transact without the need to do the overhead and that sort of thing. Particularly, like I said, a lot of our orchardists, they're working during the day. They're out in the orchards. They're pruning. They're picking. They're doing whatever. So,
and how did they previously transact with you then?
Well, it was fax machines. It was it was email. It was phone call. And we still have that. I mean, that's one of the big benefits of Montague is the personal relationships. It's great, we still, and one of the things, Montague is very family oriented in that regard, and it sort of extends that to the relationships. We can talk to a lot of our growers and that sort of thing. So that's how typically it was done. Okay. And that's where we're seeing that. And the important thing for us there, it's not so much to reduce our operational cost is that's got a subsequent benefit. What it was really about was attracting and bringing our supply chain together closer because we have a perishable product. We can't store it. And its quality is dependent upon weather conditions a whole lot. We need to know sooner whether we're going to have a good crop or a bad crop or whatever it is. We're going to have some good apples, some bad apples. There's always the bad apples, isn't there? But we're going to have some good apples and bad apples and that sort of thing. The same with stone fruit. So we'll try to get that information sooner, and that's where we've seen the benefit as a result of that.
Great. And I see, there's a fair bit of investment in IoT technologies, and you mentioned, using some BI tools to, and that seems to be gaining momentum in the agricultural sector. Apart from the BI that you've just touched on, are there any other technologies that Montague Group might be looking at?
Yeah, well, we're about 2 years into a very major project for us, and we think for the agricultural industry, and that is what we're calling the fruit tracking system. That's what happens when IT get in charge of marketing. It's called the fruit tracking system because it does what it says. So we've been investing in tracking of our bins. Ideally, we want to track each individual apple because we need to know its provenance. Where was it grown? How was it grown? That sort of thing. It's important for a number of reasons. One is, obviously, Australia has a reputation, particularly in our export markets, where we produce a high-quality product in a very clean agricultural environment. We don't have a lot of the diseases, and we certainly don't use a lot of the chemicals that a lot of other regions do by comparison. So we need to be able to say that if we're saying this is an apple from Tasmania, that it's grown in this thing. So it's important that we present that and present that provenance of the fruit there.
Yeah, great.
So that's what we're doing with that. And so we can you can walk into a supermarket soon, not now, but in the future, you'll be able to walk into a supermarket and identify what orchard, what tree, even down to the day it was picked and that sort of thing. And it's to import that provenance and the quality of the product for the end customer. That's a big thing for us.
Yeah, that's a big thing for the customer too, to see that data right in front of them. I mean, at the moment, you just go up to the shelf and pick a few apples, and you just know the name of it and the price, and that's about it. But
and it's interesting, particularly as we're promoting healthy living. Certainly, as a parent myself, you're a bit conscious of what you give to the kids to eat. You're a lot conscious, and being able to make that decision to say, look, I'm going to buy this product over that product because I can see that it's got this provenance, or it's grown in a particular way, and I'm comfortable with putting that product to my child or to my family.
Great.
So it's really important.
Yeah, exciting changes coming up. Fantastic. And so we also have a segment here, Mike, called the Goodsies Fast Four, where I ask 4 hard-hitting questions in 30 seconds.
Okay.
Are you ready? You ready to go?
Send me in, Coach.
Rightio, let's go. Question 1. What's your go-to order at your favourite restaurant?
Green chicken curry. Has to be at a Thai restaurant.
And what do you wish you had known when you had started out in this role?
Just the nature of the relationships. Relationships are so long and so deep and so old. Yep. It's great.
Fantastic. And what's something you failed at?
Oh, I'm a miserable basketball coach. I did it for one of my sons. I was terrible.
And what are you curious about right
now? Just the Internet of Things and basically how we can take that good quality source data from the through to making decisions. So into that BI space and drawing the relationships and understanding how they all work together.
Yeah, exciting stuff. Fantastic. Okay, well, that's all for today's episode of The Goods Oil. Thanks for listening, and thank you, Mike, for joining me today.
Thank you, Adam. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, join us again next week when we bring you another CIO to The Goods Oil podcast and find out how they are making a difference to this world we live in. See you then.
Hit it! That's what I'm talking about.
Wait! Okay, now, from the beginning.